his support, he slowly proceeded forward so as to be careful of encountering any accidents.
600.
Ace.
Okay, guys, hello. I don't know if my introduction was recorded. Anyways, good morning. Today I can only read it for about a couple chapters, so bear with me. We're trying to get through this, I know.
With dragon's might surging out, strongman Ozil and his subordinates quaked on the spot, as though a gigantic hammer had struck them. Suddenly, some of them ran in every direction, escaping aimlessly. Some kept going in circles on the spot, while others stood on the spot, trembling uncontrollably. There were all kinds of different reactions. Unlike previously, when he was afraid that Wormtongue Mithor would recover, making it necessary to make every second count, Klein had plenty of time to observe his surroundings at that moment. He instantly grasped the situation. Different reactions stem from their mental fortitude and resilience. The weakest and most ordinary ones were the ones who ran wildly. Those with relatively stronger mental fortitude among the ordinary people would run about aimlessly. For Beyonders who had their psyche enhanced, as well as ordinary people who had strong mental fortitudes, they would circle around on the spot, trying to escape but stopping themselves as well. The strong Beyonders with strong mental fortitude would stand on the spot as they tremble, or go around in circles on the spot. Those who suffer from incontinence as a result of fear belong to the escaping and avoid.
Damn. I thought they repeated.
Group. Klein swept his gaze and was about to raise his gun to shoot, making the enemies who could threaten him lose the ability to do combat. At this moment, he discovered that a man who had been trembling on the spot had recovered the clarity in his eyes. He was about to escape the influence of awe. As for the others, they were also showing symptoms of recovering. Considering how he didn't have the ability to finish all of them off in such a short period of time,
Damn.
and how a gunshot would jolt a number of them back to their senses, as well as how different Beyonders, when combining their different powers together, could cause him harm, Klein changed his mind and made the glove on his left palm be tainted with a sinister, reflective blackness. His eyes turned dark as he forcefully distorted the intents of the people who were waking up. The trembling man pounced forward suddenly. He could no longer resist his thoughts of fleeing. He ran straight for the secret exit, leaving his employer, strongman Ozil, as a constantly shrinking back. Klein rapidly switched between psychiatrist and baron of corruption, using dragon's might followed by distortion as he repeated this sequence. Soon, and he chased all the mentally Ozil's strong or resilient bouncers.
R.I.P. to the people.
Although there was no way of comparing creeping hunger to a genuine shepherd, switching between different souls required a certain amount of time to cool down. Klein grasped this rhythm very well. He easily completed his goal while there were still some remnant effects from dragon's might. However, he also discovered a problem. For certain targets, if they were repeatedly exposed to dragon's might and all within a short period of time, the effects would weaken with repeated use. Of course, most of strongman Ozil's subordinates were already slumped on the ground after repeatedly being hit by dragon's might.
Oh,
They
God.
were pissing and defecating themselves, emitting a stench. Dragon's might and distortion are quite a good combination. If Mithor hadn't tried to counterattack, he could have escaped with bribe, weaken, and distortion, and I might not have necessarily been able to catch up to him and finish him off. Yes, that counterattack of his was very potent. There weren't any signs prior to it. If it it wasn't due to a seer and clown's reliance on their spirituality and intuition, I might not have been able to use paper figurine substitutes in time, much less talk about dodging the strike. This reminds me that even though creeping hunger provides the combat strength of a Sequence 5, I shouldn't belittle other Sequence 6s. A careless mistake might have me killed. Amidst his thoughts, Klein made the glove turn as though it was gilded. His eyes suddenly lit up with 2 bolts of lightning. Strong man Ozil immediately cried out in pain as he couldn't bear it anymore. He crashed to the ground like a toppling mountain peak. He held his head as he struggled in pain like a catfish that had just been caught. Unfortunately, I don't have Beyonder powers that can perform an area of effect attack. Otherwise, I'd be able to keep the other Beyonders back. I remember that there's a lightning storm in the Sea King's domain. However, such charms are of too high a level. It exceeds the realm of my knowledge. Klein swept his gaze across all the goons before unhurriedly walking to the basement. This place was originally a market, but with everyone fleeing, it was empty. Dressed in his double-breasted frock coat, Klein pulled a chair out from behind a stall. He placed it before Ozil and leisurely sat down. He leaned forward as he observed the boss of the Amiris Leaf Bar without a word. After Ozil tumbled around for a while, he finally recovered from the pain that nearly made him lose control. However, he still suffered from a splitting headache. He was just about to stand up when he saw a pair of pale-colored eyes that reflected pale gold light. He saw a glove covered in dark golden scales. In that instant, cold sweat was still dripping from his forehead. He felt that one maelstrom after another was appearing in his eyes, sucking in all his attention. Klein calmly asked, "Were you once a pirate?" "Yes." Ozil realized that he had the strong intention of answering the man. This was a psychological cue. Klein asked again without a change in tone, "What deeds have you done in the past that violate the kingdom's laws?" Ozil didn't hide anything from him. He simply explained what he had done as a pirate and as the boss of the Amiris Leaf Bar. It included his plundering of liners, raping female passengers, and killing the innocent. This included striking down competitors and kidnapping their family members, setting ambushes to sink an entire family to the bottom of the ocean. Klein listened to all of this in silence, and the corners of his mouth curled up slowly. He clapped his left palm against his right hand and said, "What a competent pirate and passable gang boss." Amidst his praise, he extended his left hand as a ferocious mouth opened up on the thin human skin. Shrill screams resounded in the basement, but it stopped after a few seconds. All that was left were echoes. Klein sat in his seat, watching silently as the bright points of light slowly gathered in front of him. Around him, all the goons who were suffering from incontinence instinctively distanced themselves from him. As they crawled, they left stains on the ground. Moments later, Klein slowly stood up. He bent down to pick up a pure spherical light that was the size of a baby's fist, as well as the wallet inside Ozil's clothes. After stealing a glance at the thickness of the wad of cash, he put away the 2 items and holstered his revolver. He took off his half-top hat and bowed at the trembling goons in the corner. Klein checked the underground area after he was done with everything. To his regret, he didn't discover any items like a safe. All he could do was return via the passageway, pick up Wormtongue Mythor King's corpse, and walk to the entrance. He paused for 2 seconds as the scene outside was naturally outlined in his mind. He discovered that the bouncers, who he imagined would attempt to open the door to provide help, had already disappeared. The dragon's might from just now made them realize that it's a battle between Beyonders, so they retreated, as expected of a region where pirates are everywhere. Some ordinary people still have a chance of understanding about Beyonders. It seems such matters happen often here. Some fugitive suddenly gets arrested by the mandated punishers. Klein undid the metal chains and reached for Mythor King's pocket in passing and took his cash. He held back the urge to count his earnings as he burned a paper figurine and threw it outside before opening the door to the entrance. He then walked out with Mythor's corpse. At this moment, most of the customers in the bar were gone. There were only about 8 people hiding in different spots to await the outcome.
Ooh.
Klein surveyed the area without any expression as he saw gazes frantically retract. The only person who dared to look at him head-on was Oz Kent. He was frowning as he watched Gehrman Sparrow carry a corpse over slowly. Bang! The corpse flew in front of him, smashing over a table. Oz Kent focused his gaze as his pupils instantly contracted. Worm-tongue Mythor King. Vice Admiral Ailment's third mate, Mythor King. He looked up in shock, stealing another glance at Gehrman Sparrow. Klein revealed a faint smile. Remember my bounty. With that said, he took his half-top hat, bowed slightly as a form of bidding farewell, and turned to leave through the Amiris Leaf Bar's main
Bro
door.
is so cool.
Bayam Harbor.
Oh my gosh.
On Lord Daggett, Elend watched as the door to his captain's cabin was slammed open. He asked in surprise, "Kent, what happened?" Oz Kent questioned him with a warped expression. "Elend, what kind of monster did you introduce me to?" Gehrman Sparrow. Elend returned with a question, feeling somewhat uncertain. Oz Kent nodded. He killed Worm-tongue and Strongman without batting an eye, right inside Amiris Leaf Bar, right in front of me. It didn't even take him 5 minutes. He felt like he was going crazy. Mythor King, Elend asked, but he sounded like he was repeating the name to himself. Then he revealed a rueful smile. From the looks of it, we have to report to the higher-ups. He didn't mention blazing damnets, nor steal Mavetti's death. All right. Oz Kent was waiting for him to say that. At 3 in the afternoon, inside a garden building near the Governor General's office. Elend and Oz Kent were sitting in an elegantly decorated living room as they awaited the reply from an important figure. After an unknown amount of time, a young man with neatly combed back blonde hair walked down the staircase and said to the two, "The General says that since he temporarily doesn't show any animosity, we should honor the agreement and continue our cooperation from before. However, we must be careful. Send a telegram back to Backlund and secretly investigate his true identity and intentions here at sea.
Well,
Also, spread the news that he killed
chill.
Mythor King to the pirates." "Yes, Mr. Luan." After receiving clear instructions, Elend and Oz Kent immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Inside the inn, Klein did a divination and counted his cash, confirming that he had received 327 pounds, 9 soli 5 pence, and a Beyonder characteristic from a Sequence 8 pugilist from the Warrior Pathway. This is also an item worth 600 to 700 pounds. Furthermore, there's Mythor's bounty. Even if I deduct the labor fees, there will still be several thousand pounds. Oz Kent might not dare to take his cut. This is quite a good harvest. It's like a windfall, Klein thought in comfort, before holding a ritual, sending creeping hunger up to the gray fog. To be frank, he felt that dragon's might, frenzy, and psychological cue were 3 rather useful Beyonder powers that he couldn't bear to part with.
Yeah.
However, since he had already promised Miss Justice, he ultimately chose to abide by his promise.
Cool.
Chapter
Oh,
601. Scaring oneself.
hold on. Hold
Above the gray
on.
fog.
Okay. Where are we? Okay. Scaring oneself. That's a scary title. Though I'm gonna be right back for a bit. Just a moment. Oh. Hey guys, I made my coffee. Okay, let's start.
He leaned back into his high-back chair and held fleeting hunger. He remained silent for several seconds. Finally, he released the psychiatrist's soul according to the specific steps. A tall figure quickly appeared by the side of the bronze table. It was a woman whose face looked somewhat blurry. Her pain and distorted feelings was apparent.
Oh,
Clive looked at
it's
her
a
and
woman.
asked her as though he was chatting with her. Do you still remember who you are? In the mysterious face, he could directly channel her spirit. The psychiatrist's enmity reduced substantially as she smiled bitterly. Of course I remember. I was a member of a secret organization and was planning to meet a friend in Toscarter Island, but I ended up encountering pirates on the way.
Oh no.
Although I used my powers to resolve the disaster, the pirates who escaped informed Kilangos of the corresponding situation. In order to obtain my powers, he deliberately changed course and intercepted our ship. You can probably imagine what happened after that. Thanks to his meticulousness, I was killed instantly, unlike the other female passengers who encountered things that were worse than death. Klein fell silent for a few seconds before nodding slightly. Ian, do you know of the ancient book known as Grossel's Travels? He believed that since Grossel's travels came from the dragons, it was possible that the psychiatrist had heard of its name or the corresponding information. The female psychiatrist thought over it carefully before shaking her head. I'm sorry, I've never heard that name before. Klein no longer bothered with the
What?
topic and switched to asking, since you're about to dissipate and gain eternal peace, do you have any last wishes? The psychiatrist lowered her head and chuckled. I wish to be revived.
Bro.
All right. I know that this wish cannot be satisfied. Everything else isn't necessary. I've been dead for years. My family and friends have probably already received news of my death. Informing them again of my death will only dig up the pain of those memories. Let's leave it at that. Thank you. That should be it.
That's
The
sad.
figure quickly dissipated and vanished, leaving behind a huge golden iris that could expose the thoughts of everyone's hearts. This was the beyonder characteristic of a psychiatrist. Klein sighed and began pondering over the details of what the psychiatrist had said. She was visiting a friend at Toscarter Island, alone without any family. Toscarter Island is located at the easternmost front of the Sonia Sea, and is south of the Gargis Archipelago. That's the easternmost colony of the Loan Kingdom, while the Gargis Archipelago belongs to the Feysac Empire. What kind of friend would be there? What kind of friend is worth visiting after taking such a long trip? Although she only said that she's from a secret organization, chances are that it's the Psychology Alchemists. Was she out on a mission? Klein respected the deceased and didn't wish to dig out her secrets, so he didn't probe deeper. Without any clues, he quickly stopped thinking about such matters and considered something else. After hunting down Wormtongue Mythor King, regardless of the reason, I have to leave Bayam for the time being. I've really done quite a bit in the City of Generosity during this period of time. Yes, I'll participate in about 3 Beyonder gatherings and confirm whether there are the main ingredients of Nimblewright Master before leaving. Klein rapidly made a decision and conjured a scene of the world praying. Covering it with the gray fog, he threw the scene to the Crimson Star, representing Miss Justice. Audrey was standing on the balcony on the 3rd floor, looking at the nearby village. The rooftops were mainly brick red in color as they showed depictions, abstract pictures, or real pictures of dragons. Suddenly, the familiar endless void surfaced in front of her eyes. Amidst the gray fog, a blurry figure was standing high above, praying to the god above. Honorable Mr. Fool, please inform Miss Justice that she can make preparations for the transaction. I can make preparations for the transaction? He has obtained the Beyonder characteristic of a psychiatrist, but he still didn't have one yesterday. The world's efficiency shocked Audrey as she nearly forgot to thank Mr. Fool. Thankfully, she was no longer the green and naive lady from before. She had been exposed to several major matters and rapidly calmed her mind as she sincerely thanked him. She passed on the message for Mr. World to wait another 2 to 3 days as she was preparing to pay off the money she owed to Mr. Fool's Blessed. Although she had sufficient money, she had to maintain a minimum balance. Otherwise, it was easy for others to notice something amiss. After the illusory gray fog dissipated, Audrey silently looked down at Susie, who was admiring the garden on the 1st floor, before pacing around and secretly clicking her tongue. Mr. World is really terrifying. Evening, in the Seaweed Bar. Having just squandered all his money at the casino, Blue Eyes Meath sat before a bar counter and ordered a cup of Lanty Proof. He was just about to raise the cup when he suddenly heard the bartender whisper to him with a suppressed voice, "Wormtongue Mythor is dead." What? Who did it? Blue Eyes Meath was first alarmed before he asked excitedly, "Someone is challenging Vice Admiral Ailment?"
They already know,
An
though.
adventurer named Germon Sparrow. He wasn't known at all before. Who knew that he finished off Mythor? The bartender didn't hide his shock and alarm. He also killed Ozil, the real boss of Amiris Leaf Bar, Strongman Ozil. Blue Eyes. Meth was just about to sigh when he frowned suddenly. Back when Ozil's men came to ask him about Blazing Damnits, he had mentioned that the bosun of the Golden Dream was seen mixing in with an unknown adventurer. He had used a ritual to provide the corresponding portrait. Ozil is dead. Mythor King is dead. It's done by an unknown adventurer named Gearman Sparrow. Blue Eyes. Meath suddenly trembled as a scene that left a deep impression on him surfaced in his mind. The young man that looked like a gentleman was standing by the entrance of the bar. He had black hair and brown eyes with a thin and cut face. His eyes coldly observed the customers as though he was seeking out his prey. Blue Eyes. Meth shuddered and couldn't be bothered with drinking his alcohol. He got up immediately and took wide strides out of the bar. Terrifying. That guy is too terrifying. Even Wormtongue died at his hands. He's definitely a powerhouse at the Admiral level. He will definitely seek me out and finish me off. No, I can't stay in Bayham any longer. I have to return to the ship and be far away from here. Blue Eyes Meth ran to the Red Theater and forcibly pulled his companions with him. They headed for the woods and circled around to the private harbor ran by the Resistance. Opposite, across the Red Theater, the herb store in the alley remained open. The chubby apothecary Darkwill was sitting behind the counter, wearing a calm expression, but internally he was deeply worried.
Oh.
He had already contacted the Life School of Thought members he knew via various methods and sought their help. However, he had no idea who they were or when they would come. He could only bear with his fear and anxiety as he continued running the store, pretending as though nothing had happened. Darkwill, you're extremely uneasy.
Right.
The chubby owl flew over from an unknown location and landed on the counter. There's no need for you to remind me. I know my state of mind very well. Darkwill waved his hands impatiently. He could still remember the times when he was still under his teacher's tutelage. He was often warned to be careful of the official Yonder organizations and be careful of the truth. In regards to this, Roy King raised several examples, such as being imprisoned underground forever, with no sunlight or woman to be seen, being made into experimental subjects where their bodies would be used to test the dangers of particular sealed artifacts. There, they would experience all kinds of experiments, and after mutating, they were monsters who acted on instinct. It was also possible to be sucked and eaten by the sanguine and made into puppets. Twice, these examples had deeply imprinted themselves in his mind. It made his already lacking courage vanish instantly. After leaving his teacher's side, he often stayed in a city for a short period of time, immediately leaving once there was a risk of exposure. Darkwill tried hard to keep his horror under control, placing his attention on the problem of rescuing his teacher. Old Man has been captured for some time. Why is he still imprisoned in the Governor General's office? With the military's abilities, they should be able to gather any information they wish to know, be it an outright execution, the gathering of materials, or being used as an experimental subject. They would definitely move Old Man. Could it be that Old Man used some techniques to hide his secret, or they wished to make him into a spy? Sigh, just agree to it. Darkwill scratched his head as his thoughts wandered aimlessly. Gradually, he recalled the last letter he received from his teacher, Roy King. Old Man often likes to give hints in things that seem to be normal and ordinary matters. Could that letter contain similar information? That letter didn't say a thing. It just said to meet him near the Red Theater and flaunted his gambling techniques. He clearly relies on luck. He even wanted me to go to Enmet Street's Mabel's Sundry store and buy a dye to make preparations to be educated. I thought I would buy it only after we met, so I haven't been there all this time. Perhaps a secret there. Darkwill was like a drowning man who seemed to clutch at a straw. Many of Bayham streets were named after Lowen Kingdom cities. Darkwill used a few minutes to muster his courage, brought the owl with him, and closed the door to his shop before walking out of the alley. While waiting for the rental carriage, he bought a copy of the news report from a paperboy as he flipped through the international and domestic news, as well as news about the archipelago. Suddenly, he saw a familiar face. It was the adventurer who had informed him of Roy King's location. In the afternoon...
No way. They put German's portrait in the newspaper? What? Damn. Okay. Well, now everyone is gonna watch out for him.
Herman Sparrow killed Wormtongue Mythor King, who's worth a bounty reaching 5,400 pounds. I actually entrusted a mission to such a powerful adventurer. Darkwill clicked his tongue. He soon threw the matter to the back of his mind and got onto the carriage and headed straight for Enmett Street and found Mabel's Sundry Store. The owner of the shop was a genial old lady who said after sizing him up, "The dye you want costs £1. This is a robbery." Darkwill roared angrily in his head, but this only made him more certain that there might be clues hidden in the dye. After paying, he received a tiny ring box and opened the lid. He saw a milky white six-sided die which had 4 red dots pointing up. Although he was puzzled with how ordinary the die looked and how it was stuffed tightly into the ring box with no remnant space, Darkwill still acted cautiously by not studying it on the spot. He placed it into his pocket and walked to another side of the street. When he came to a secluded spot, he couldn't help but give it a glance, unable to find any problems with it. At this moment, a carriage flew by and gave him a fright. His wrist trembled as he dropped the die on the ground. The die continued rolling and ultimately came to a stop, a single red dot pointing up.
I feel like bro has luck. Either good luck or bad luck.
To pick it up. Just as he took this step, his body suddenly staggered, and he collapsed to the ground loudly, despite the lack of any obstacles. All he saw were stars.
What?
His mind went blank for a moment as he lay there,
Did he
the
faint?
milky white dye right in front of his eyes.
Oh, brother.
Chapter 6.
Oh,
102.
brother.
Becoming famous, Darkwill sprawled on the ground, momentarily forgetting to stand up. His mind remained blank. Ever since he had matured, he had never encountered a scenario of tripping himself. After consuming the potions, his body had experienced enhancements to a certain degree, making it even more impossible. Now, for some baffling reason, he had fallen down in an inexplicable manner. Did I step on something? Darkwill suddenly snapped to his senses as he struck down with his palm and rolled to his feet. He pretended as though the one who had just fallen wasn't him.
Oh, bro.
He looked left and right without finding anything odd on the ground. Filled with puzzlement, he took a few difficult steps forward to pick up the milky white dye. At this moment, the patrolling constable seemed to have sensed the disturbance as he jogged over with baton in hand while holding his other hand down on his revolver.
What?
Upon seeing this scene, Darkwill suddenly felt worried, feeling suspicious that he had fallen for a trap. They caught Old Man, but haven't come for me all this time. It's because they were secretly observing me and waiting for me to find some clues. Now, I've gotten my hands on this strange die. They've started taking action. The official Beyonders are here to catch me. Darkwill instinctively turned around and ran, but he had suffered a rather heavy fall, causing him to feel pain in his knees. He was momentarily only able to walk. Seeing the patrolling constable approach him, and with him not being able to run, a scene of an underground prison instantly surfaced in Darkwill's mind. In an environment with only an everlasting candlelight, locked with Beyonders who would heave intensely like monsters. What happened? The patrolling constable pressed down on his revolver as he kept his distance and asked cautiously. Darkwill suddenly felt an irrepressible fear.
What?
As his wrist trembled, the milky white dye he had just picked up fell to the ground again as it rolled a few times.
The die keeps rolling down, okay? This time, 6 red dots pointed up. What is this, D&D? Is it something about luck?
Times 6 red dots pointed up.
Wait. No way. Wait, I kind of connected it now. Roy King, his master, is a gambler. And he said that he usually flaunts his skills, gambling skills, at a casino. Does this die have something to do with being lucky? And that's why he gave it to him. Oh, this is so odd and cryptic. Dang, his master must be like quite the... I don't know how to describe it, but like, you know, like a trick master. Not really a trick master, but kind of a trick master. It's like hidden with layers of... there's layers to what he's saying. Especially with the way he handles letters. It's like cryptic. Oh, that's crazy. Okay, let's see how this turns out.
Faced with the constable's scrutiny, Darkwill replied with a trembling voice. I just stepped onto a damn banana skin and fell. The moment he said that, he felt his heart skip a beat.
Oh no.
This was because there wasn't any banana skins on the ground. Damn it, I was too nervous. I should have said that I tripped myself, Darkwill thought in frustration. He decided to summon the owl perched on the roof opposite him, preparing to make a last stand. Or, the patrolling constable gave him a glance and chuckled. Make sure to watch where you place your feet when walking. I was imagining that you had been robbed.
Oh.
He released his palm on his revolver, raised his baton, and walked away. In a daze, Darkwill looked at the constable's back that was opening up a gap from him. He wasn't sure how the constable had so easily believed his excuse that was filled with mistakes. He retracted his gaze and looked at the milky white dye which was sitting on the ground in silence. He slowly frowned. I'm not pure, Loinis. The constables here don't need to suck up to me. Could it be all thanks to this? Be it my strange fall or my weird way of convincing the constable, it was all because of this. Is this that important sealed artifact which Teacher was taking care of? Darkwill quickly made certain connections as he carefully proceeded forward. He picked up the die again and stuffed it into the extremely tiny ring box. In the box, the die had no room to roll. Signaling to his owl, Darkwill picked up the news report copy, stopped a rental carriage, and hobbled up. His destination, Red Theater. The carriage smoothly proceeded forward. Because dusk was setting in, the street lamps, which were relatively far away, didn't illuminate the area much. He wasn't in a rush to study the ring box or the die inside. He patiently waited until he returned home. After entering the herb store and heading up to the residential area on the second floor, he lit the wall lamp and chased the silly bird out of his room. He sat in front of his desk and repeatedly checked on the ring box and milky white dye. Finally, he took out a folded piece of paper about the length of a finger segment from the bottom of the ring box. Darkwill inhaled silently as he quickly spread open the piece of paper and discovered that there were 3 paragraphs written in ancient face sack. If I didn't appear 3 days after the appointed time, then I must have been betrayed and have been arrested.
Ew.
Therefore, do not seek out help from the other members of the
Oh
School
my
of
gosh,
Thought.
you already did.
This is because I'm unable to determine who did it. This will bring you great danger.
Run, Darkwill.
There is only one thing that you need to do. Bring the die to Aravi Island and hand it to the bellman, Carno, in the port city. My teacher, Ricciardo, is hidden there. The subsequent matters will be handled by him. Don't worry that I'll divulge this secret. Once I finish writing this letter, all relevant memories would completely disappear.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't even remember having an apprentice like you until I'm rescued. Remember, try your best not to use the die. It has living characteristics. The more you use it, the easier it is for it to awaken. It will roll itself when you aren't watching it, even without any space. When it's at 1, please trust me when I say that you'll suffer from worse than a direct death.
Oh my gosh. No way. That's crazy. Darkwill is so lucky. So no wonder it was in a really tight space, because it can roll itself. Bro encountered 1 and 6 already. That's crazy.
This is because almost everything you do will end in failure, including your bed activities. Indeed, this die is very dangerous. Darkwill subconsciously sighed and immediately realized the dumb act he had done out of goodwill. In order to rescue his teacher, Roy King, he overcame his cowardliness and remained in Bayam, as well as sent out a cry for help to the Life School of Thought members. And according to the information, this meant that he might very well have been targeted by the person who betrayed Roy King. Why didn't you say so earlier? No, why didn't I head out to buy the die earlier? Darkwill raised his hands and yanked at his hair. He didn't dare stay any longer. He decided to leave his residence and buy a scalped ticket at night. He would head for Oravi Island early the next morning. That was an island that was on the route between the Rorstead Archipelago and Toscarter Island. My charms, my revolver, my bullets. Darkwill quickly counted the items that could provide him with safety, feeling concern over his lack of combat strength. He quickly thought of an idea as he paced around and mumbled, I need to hire a bodyguard. A bodyguard? Who should I hire? How much money must I spend? Amidst his thoughts, Darkwill's gaze swept across the news report copy which he had just brought back. Suddenly, he thought of an excellent bodyguard, Gehrman Sparrow, a powerful adventurer who could hunt a pirate worth 5,400 pounds. If he's willing to accept the mission, I should be able to successfully arrive at Oravi Island if the counselor doesn't take action. How can I find him? Right. I should paste notices in the bars where adventurers frequently appear. Darkwill nodded indiscernibly as he stuffed the items back into his packed suitcase. With this plump owl, he left the herb store once again, his heart feeling the pinch. In the seas beyond the Rorstead Archipelago, in a small port belonging to Lowen, the Black Death was docked there without any scruples. It was being surrounded by 3 ships. Vice Admiral Ailment Tracy, who had just taken a hot bath, wore a loose man's shirt, and she finished the final treatment for her mostly recovered wound. To a demoness, scars weren't a thing. At this moment, the blonde female attendant knocked on the door and entered the captain's cabin after receiving permission. When she saw Tracy, her cheeks flushed red as she moved her gaze away. Captain, a telegram was sent from Bayam to the port over here. Mithor, a 3rd mate, has been killed. Tracy stopped her actions as her expression sank. She asked hesitantly, do you know who did it? She had sent Wormtongue Mithor to Bayam to investigate the assassination attempt on her, firstly as a form of punishment for his dereliction of duty, and secondly to spread the news that she was heavily injured so as to lure others who harbored malicious intent into attacking her. She never expected Mithor to be able to make any breakthroughs or developments in a short period of time. After the demigod addressed as Death Consul by the demoness of Unaging visited her, she had deliberately concealed this matter and didn't quickly inform Mithor. She allowed the punishment to continue as she felt that it was naturally for the best if his investigations turned fruitful. Even if there was nothing, she wouldn't be too disappointed either. She never thought about the possibility of Mithor being placed at risk, as it was a part of the punishment. But to her surprise, Mithor had been killed so quickly. The blonde female attendant handed over the telegram and said, it was done by an adventurer named Gehrman Sparrow. It can be confirmed that he had used a Beyonder power similar to Dragon's Might. Gehrman Sparrow, Dragon's Might. Heh. Kilangos also knew Dragon's Might. He likely grazed a psychiatrist or hypnotist with creeping hunger. Tracy sneered after receiving the telegram as she spoke to herself. She was quite certain that Gehrman Sparrow was the enemy, who had disguised himself as Helene to attack her. Furthermore, he had been using the faceless powers which Kilangos had grazed.
Nah, that is
Creeping hunger
his.
is with him, and he has an ancient demigod, who Mother addressed as Death Consul, backing him. Does this mean that Kilangos was really killed by that Death Consul?
Exactly.
Tracy muttered silently as she waved her hand to send the blonde attendant out. After the door to the captain's cabin closed, she chuckled to herself. If I were to divulge this information, the organization that ordered Kilangos to assassinate Duke Negan would definitely be very interested. For a brief moment of time, she really had the urge to do so, but her rationality stopped her. This was because it meant that she would directly offend the Death Consul. And with the single chance of him being recognized as the murderer, she would immediately be suspected of divulging the information. When the time comes, unless I hide back at Mother's side, I'll be under the shadow of death at any moment. I'm not afraid of other saints. They will have to find me before they can attack me. Besides, there will definitely be some indication of that, and a significant amount of time is needed. I will have sufficient chances to escape danger. But the Death Consul can travel using the spirit world. As long as he determines my location, he will quickly appear beside me. Tracy bit her lip as she thought in depression. She gave up her previous thoughts and decided to take note of Gehrman Sparrow's whereabouts. She wouldn't spare him once a good opportunity
Oh
arose.
my gosh.
At this moment, Klein was still living in the Tiana Inn, waiting for his bounty to be delivered to him.
Bounty.
Chapter 6, 103, Conditions, 10,
Jeez.
PM Swordfish Bar. After waiting an entire afternoon and having not received his bounty, Klein deliberately went out. He went to Oz Kent and received the news that the process had been kick-started. However, he would only receive the money tomorrow morning. He disguised himself and participated in a private exchange among the adventurers in the Swordfish Bar, but he didn't find the main ingredients of the Nimble Right Master potion or any mystical items. After restoring his appearance, Klein pressed down on his hat and attempted to squeeze through the crowd. He left the bar, which was in its rowdiest and noisiest time of the day. At this point, gazes swept past his face as most of them were momentarily taken aback before they clearly froze for 2 seconds as though they had recognized something. Suddenly, they retracted their gaze and retreated far away from Klein like the receding tide. They had already learned of Gehrman Sparrow's appearance and strength in the papers and rumors. More details had gradually spread in areas where adventurers, pirates, and gang members gathered. Many people gained a basic understanding of the present situation and knew that Gehrman Sparrow had taken the crazy action of instantly drawing his revolver once he discovered Wormtongue Mythor King. Therefore, everyone knew better and chose to stay away from the dangerous man. The merchant, Ralph, was drinking in front of the bar when he suddenly sensed the disturbance. He instinctively half-turned his body around and looked over. He soon saw a quiet gentleman with a thin face and cut features, and the corresponding portrait which appeared on news report surfaced in his mind. Gehrman Sparrow, who hunted Wormtongue. Following that, Ralph recalled his conversation with Resistance leader Callet in the evening. He confirmed that the crazy adventurer before him wasn't averse to Sea God, and he had even witnessed the private trade between the Resistance and Vice Admiral Iceberg. Perhaps I can develop him into being a believer of Sea God. Even if he has no interest in the archipelago in the future, he might be able to provide certain help in certain matters. Ralph clasped his hands and held them to his mouth, as though he was blowing at a sea conch. This was one of the gestures used to pray to Sea God Calvetua.
Calvetua.
Then he suddenly got up and walked to Gehrman Sparrow with a beer in hand. At this moment, Klein also noticed Ralph's approach and recognized him. That was a devout believer who was willing to offer up a third of his 20,000 gold pound wealth to see God. That was the former pirate and the present merchant who he had convinced to set up a children's charity foundation. Based on the news regarding the charity foundation and his frequent pious praying, he understood Ralph in all aspects. Therefore, he was very puzzled as to why the man would attempt to approach Gehrman Sparrow. He has a job to entrust to me, things that the Resistance isn't able to do for some reason or another. Klein looked at Ralph as he slowed down his pace. Mr. Gehrman Sparrow. Ralph raised the cup of beer in his hand. Klein nodded and maintained his persona by saying, I don't know you. Haha, it's always so simple to get to know each other among adventurers. Perhaps a cup of beer is all it takes. Ralph pointed at the bar counter. Are you interested in a drink? All right. Klein was deeply puzzled as he answered simply. They sat in the corner of the bar as he ordered a cup of Southville beer. As he drank, he looked at Ralph without saying a word. Being stared at silently by a powerhouse at the level of a pirate admiral wasn't a good experience. Ralph drank a mouthful of beer to hide his high-strung nerves and laughed. I've heard about you. Before what you did today, I know that you're a true gentleman that shows no discrimination towards the natives of the colonial lands. Different things to say flashed through Klein's mind as he finally decided on a few sentences that corresponded to his persona. Get to the meat of the issue. Ralph nearly choked as he cleared his throat. Do I have the honor to introduce you to our god, the savior of the archipelago,
Have you heard of our Lord and Savior, Calvin?
As you know, the sea is so vast, the storms are that terrifying. It's impossible to guarantee that one can defeat the various difficulties at sea and live on, even for the Four Kings. We need a god that can respond to you and hold authority over the sea and storm. Introducing me to myself and then getting me to believe in myself. Klein resisted the urge to twitch the corners of his face as he turned to say, I'm more interested in whether you have any mystical items, the kind that has powerful offensive strength. Ralph revealed an honest smile. We don't have any. However, as long as you piously believe in Sea God, there might be a day when you would be bestowed with one. I don't have one. Don't make promises for me. Klein instantly found it amusing and laughable. He felt that he couldn't carry on the conversation. Hence, he downed his half-filled cup of Southville beer and said, I'll consider it. He was about to leave when the bartender suddenly came over and squeezed a smile. Mr. Gehrman Sparrow, someone entrusted you with a mission. What is it? Klein glanced at Ralph. Knowing his place, the latter left his seat with his beer. He was already very pleased with today's outcome. This was because he never had the intention of developing the crazy adventurer into a believer of Sea God in one try. His goal was only to let him know of the possibility and to think about the pros and cons of doing so. After the silence in the corner of the bar resumed, the bar counter immediately said with a smile, He says he's an apothecary, you know. He has a mission to entrust to you. If you're interested, you can wait here for him. We will contact him with the previously established method. An apothecary, I know. Chubby Darkwill. The Darkwill who rears a plump owl. What kind of mission would he have for me? Rescue his teacher, Roy King. That isn't something I will do. The risk is just too high. As his thoughts raced, Klein decided to first figure out the details of the mission. Okay. At nearly 11 p.m., Klein met the apprehensive Darkwill in billiard room 3 of the Swordfish Bar. He had already changed into a rather eye-catching witch doctor robe and was dressed as a native. He was in a Taraba shirt, pantaloons, and a brown jacket. As for this round-faced owl, it was perched silently on his right shoulder, observing the adventurer with his penetrating eyes. It's very similar to the feeling of how Miss Justice
Owl.
observes the other members of the Tarot Club. This owl might really be a Beyonder creature. A spectator. Klein made a judgment as he said in a deep tone without a change in expression. What mission is it that you have? It's this. Chubby Apothecary kept his left hand in his pocket and clenched the ring box tightly. I'll be making a trip to another island. Yeah, it will probably take 3 days. Due to certain developments, I might encounter danger. Of course, it might not happen as well. In short, I need a bodyguard, and I think you're the best choice.
Bodyguard.
The way you put it sounds like I'm actually not that impressive. It's just that you know a few people. You aren't rescuing your teacher and had chosen to leave Bayam to seek out helpers. Or he has already been saved and the danger comes from the military's pursuit. Klein pondered over the truth behind the matter as he calmly asked, how great would the danger be?
Great
Will's lips
danger.
trembled as he said, I can't be sure. If the danger exceeds what you can handle, you can directly hand me over to the other party. This will be a promise we make now. It will not spoil your reputation. If I didn't know that you just have a nasty mouth, then I would have imagined this as a form of goading. Klein thought and said, what kind of payment can you provide? Dark Will originally wished to directly give the answer he had considered long ago, but he felt hesitant for a moment. This was because the matter was indeed very dangerous. Without enough chips, he couldn't move Gehrman Sparrow into agreeing. He was afraid of the appearance of the counselor and that before the matter reached a level of despair, his bodyguard would give up resisting.
Brother.
This was also the reason why he had to hire a powerhouse. Klein glanced at him and coldly said, you can first consider it for a moment. I'll use the washroom. Tell me your answer when I'm back.
So he's gonna go
That said, he
try
turned
and
around and walked to the
divine
door. Pulling the
if it's
handle, he stepped
dangerous.
outside. The way he responded made him seem experienced, having the coolness and coldness of an adventurer and bounty hunter. But in fact, he wasn't really giving the chubby apothecary time to think. He was only finding an opportunity to head to the washroom to divine the matter above
Yeah,
the
I knew
rainfall.
that.
This was key to whether he accepted the mission. Once he left the billiard room and arrived in front of a washroom. He got in line before finally getting an empty cubicle. When he entered, he frowned as the
Oh,
dirty
dirty.
environment and disgusting stench left him grossed out.
Ew.
He nearly turned his head and left. He held back his disgust as he
gosh.
pulled the flush lever in contempt. As he sighed at the terrible environment for his divination, he took 4 tiny steps counterclockwise and began the ritual. Inside the billiard room, Dark Will agilely went to close the door after he saw Gehrman Sparrow's back completely disappear. He asked the owl on his shoulder, will he betray me? No, the owl mumbled. Also, when asking me questions, be polite. Call me Mr. Harry.
Damn, this owl. This owl having more ego than the dog, Susie. That's crazy. So, Mr. Harry, the owl.
The fat on Dark Will's face trembled. Mr. Harry, what kind of payment do you think he will accept? I can't see through him. He's good at concealing his emotions, the owl said frankly. Darn Mr. Harry. No, darn silly bird. Dark Will cursed inwardly as he paced around and considered the chips he could offer. After a while, Klein returned to billiard room 3 and asked, have you thought it through? He had already divined above the gray fog that the mission's danger was acceptable, and he happened to plan on leaving Bayam for the time being.
Okay, I guess we're
800
going on an
pounds for
adventure.
3 days, as well as our friendship.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
friendship.
referring to the friendship of my teacher and his friends,
Oh,
Darkwill said without confidence.
oh,
Klein
damn.
remained silent for a few seconds and said, 1,000 pounds for 3 days. In addition, your organization needs to help me obtain a mystical item with powerful offensive abilities. I will pay in cash based on a reasonable price. 1,000 pounds. How could I have that much? Darkwill hesitated for a moment before saying, I'll pay an advance of 300 pounds. The rest will be paid by the person I'm looking for when we arrive at my destination.
Okay.
He planned on getting his teacher's teacher to pay the rest.
Teacher's teacher.
Klein nodded slightly and said, Deal. Darkwill immediately heaved a sigh of relief before puffing his face and said with a smile, Can I believe that the protection is in immediate effect?
Okay. Damn, only like 3 chapters for that amount of time. That's crazy. I think I could read faster than that, but oh my goodness. Anyways, I'm gonna have to leave it here, sadly. I do want to read more, but that's all the time I have today. Oh. In the meantime, just let me know if you guys want, not if you still want to keep it narration like this. It's definitely slow, but if it's not a burden, then I'll happily keep going with this. And the other option is obviously just me reading it and just talking from time to time. Yeah. I don't know about that, but okay. But that would definitely like make my progress go faster. Anyways. Alright. I'm going.